Katarn ignited his lightsaber as it came to a stop a few meters away. "Care to surrender, Colonel Solo?" "Not to a traitor." Kaidus looked at the other three as their force-augmented sprints came to an end, leaving them in a semicircle before him. 3 Jedi Knights, the younger Horn, the Falleen Mithric, the Bothan Hulya. He resisted the urge to snort. Separately or collectively, these Jedi Knights were no match for him. Katarn, though, was a threat. Still, the Jedi had only moments before GA reinforcements would arrive. Their attack was already a failure. He sensed Katarn's attack, threw up his blade in a block so well practiced that his muscle memory could have performed it while he slept. With his free hand, he gestured at the Bothan Jedi. She was suddenly airborne, hurtling sideways to slam into the Falleen, knocking them both down. Katarn's blade struck his, rebounded with a snap hiss, and came around from the other side as the Jedi Master executed a lightning-fast spin. Kaidus stepped back from it, not engaging the blade. He watched the blade flash harmlessly past him. He stepped forward again into a sidekick, aimed not at Katarn, but at the onrushing Valen Horn. His boot heel caught the Jedi Knight on the point of his chin, knocking Horn backward off his feet. 2 seconds had passed since the attack began. Only Saha's head protruded from the pavement hatch as she watched her 4 companions assault Colonel Solo. In her free hand, she held a patch of black cloth. It was square, 5 centimeters to a side, and very soft and pliant, despite the fact that its center layer consisted of circuitry embedded in a flexible polymer. One side was covered by a transparent layer of flimsy. With her teeth, she worried an edge of the flimsy free, then pulled the whole layer off, dropping it into the access hole she occupied. The removal of the flimsy exposed a layer of adhesive. With her own force powers, so much less subtle than those of her allies, she sent the cloth patch flying, centimeters above ground level, toward the fight. But she couldn't send it onto her target, not yet. Master Katarn had been clear about that. She had to wait until things were at their most chaotic, their most distracting. So she guided the patch ever closer to the fight, but waited. 10 seconds. Kaidus rolled out of Katarn's kick to his head, catching a scrape along his cheek, and swung at the Master's leg. But Kalir's blade intercepted his before it bit into flesh. His strength battered her weapon away, but she had deflected his blow and spared Katarn an amputation. They're coordinating. Good for them. Bad for me. Kaidus heard a siren. An oncoming GAG vehicle. No, 2, maybe 3. He allowed himself a certain satisfaction at their speed of response. He hadn't expected anything of the sort for another half-minute. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw the first oncoming vehicle, an aging Sentinel-class armored shuttle. It was yellow with spots of rust. He could not make out its markings without looking at it, but he knew it was not in GAG or Alliance colors. Entering airspace above the plaza, it began a dangerously steep and fast repulsor lift descent. Behind it came 3 GAG airspeeders, one of them firing a top-mounted laser at the shuttle. So they were not responding with brilliant speed to an alarm. They were chasing the Jedi escape vehicle. 15 seconds. Katarn advanced, lightsaber at the ready. Kaidus withdrew before him. With part of his awareness, he was keeping track of the 4 inbound vehicles, plotting their trajectories. One of the GAG vehicles was circling ahead and to starboard of the descending shuttle. Its arc, intended to put it toward the bow of the shuttle so it could fire on the cockpit, would bring it near the combatants, just a few meters above them. Kaidus reached out a hand as if intending to hurl Katarn away from him. The Master raised his own hand, a deflecting gesture, but Kaidus exerted himself against the oncoming GAG speeder, yanking it down and toward all of them. By the time Katarn felt the speeder coming toward him, spinning, its stern a mere 2 meters from his back, it was already too late for him to send a command even to force-augmented nerves and muscles. His face changed with the awareness of danger. Then the speeder's port quarter hit his back, hurling him forward to slam into Kaidus. The speeder, continuing its out-of-control motion, slid through the location of the other Jedi, knocking Hulya to the permacrete, causing Horn and Mithric to leap to safety. Katarn now stood so close to Kaidus that every facial feature was visible, every scar and line in his weathered face, every hair on his brow, mustache, and beard. Kaidus felt a rush of satisfaction, enjoyment, as Katarn's expression turned from one of surprise to pain. Katarn looked down to see Kaedus' lightsaber buried to its hilt in his chest. A noise, something halfway between a groan and a death rattle, emerged from Katarn's lips. Smiling, Kaedus yanked his lightsaber free and let the stricken Jedi Master fall face first on the pavement. Saha felt all breath leave her body, as though it had been her chest, not Katarn's, that had been pierced. Jacen Solo's exultation washed through the Force and over her like a wave at a beach, almost knocking her free from the rung she held. "No, no, no!" The words rang in her head and were echoed by Mithric. The Faline Jedi howled them as he charged Solo, his anguish giving him speed and strength as he threw blow after blow at his enemy. Things were at their most chaotic. She focused herself on the distant black patch. It was now only 3 meters from where Colonel Solo disinterestedly blocked Mithric's attacks. As Colonel Solo twirled, causing his cloak to flare up and away from him, the patch flew to its lower hem and merged with it. Now the 3 Jedi Knights assailed Solo all out, a fight they were doomed to lose. Saha could not save them. Her tasks were accomplished. She should leave before Colonel Solo detected her. No, she couldn't. Not while a good man, a teacher, lay dead on the Duracrete in an enemy capital. She reached out to Kyle Katarn. His body jerked, and he slid a meter toward her. She poured more of herself, of her concentration, into her effort. Master Katarn's body began sliding again, continuously now, picking up speed as it scraped its way across the plaza. One of the GAG troopers fired his blaster at Mithric. Kalir, hobbling, managed to get her lightsaber blade up and caught the bolt. But it meant that the trooper's vision was returning. Saha saw the Jedi exchanging words. Vaylin spun away from the engagement with Jacen and moved toward the one-sided trooper. That man fired again, and Vaylin deflected the bolt with his lightsaber, deflected it straight toward Jacen. The improvised attack evidently came as a surprise. The bolt grazed Jacen's right leg, sending him to his knee. Mithric redoubled his attack, hammering away at Jacen's defense like a toolsmith on a primitive world, battering away at a stubborn harvester droid. Kalir, bent over from distress more than pain, hesitated, then turned and moved at a fast hobble toward the shuttle. Saha pulled one last time, and Master Katarn, shoulders first, slid into her grasp. Katarn's eyes opened. His voice was little more than a wheeze. "Go! You're alive! Explosives package! Give me one! Other one to block exit!" Kaedus hadn't felt the blaster bolt coming. His concentration was slipping, and this madman of a Faline Jedi was starting to beat down his parries. His strength was slipping. He wasn't yet recovered from his duel with Luke. And now, as more of his troopers began firing, Horn began deflecting more bolts at him. Kaedus waited until the timing was perfect, waited until an incoming bolt arrived at the same moment as one of Mithric's attacks, so he could devote a single maneuver to both. He caught Mithric's blow toward the hilt of his lightsaber. He caught the bolt near the tip, deflecting it up and straight into Mithric's chest. Mithric staggered back. The center of his chest blackened as the smell of burned skin and meat filled the air. Kaedus leapt up and executed a single, precise lateral blow. Mithric's head fell from his shoulders. His body toppled down half a second later. Kaedus and Horn spun to face each other. An expression of sadness crossed Horn's face, but his dismay did not distract him. He caught 3 more blaster bolts with his lightsaber blade without looking at their firers. Kaedus gestured toward his troopers, signaling them to cease fire. They did. Now the only ranged fire to be heard came from the speeders, still chewing the shuttle to pieces. Kaedus flexed his injured leg experimentally and decided it was not too bad. It would take his weight and allow him some footwork. He gestured toward Horn. "You going to try this alone?" Horn shook his head. Kaedus smiled. "You're a fraction of the man your father is." "Funny, that's what I was going to say to you." Horn seemed to blur as he dashed toward the shuttle, his sprinting speed augmented by the Force. "Don't be an idiot. That thing will never take off again." Kaedus left off his harangue as Horn ran up the side ramp where the Bothan had disappeared moments before. No matter. The shuttle would not take off. Horn or Hulya or both would be captured. And after a lengthy enough interrogation, Caedus would know where Luke and the Jedi were now hiding.